first 4 episodes of Amazon's Homecoming. The full show will, of course, drop next Friday, November 2nd, but I'm very honored to be up here to talk to the cast and crew of Homecoming. Please join me in welcoming them up on stage one by one. There's director Sam Esmail. Then Julia Roberts. Dermot Mulroney. Creator Eli Horowitz. And the other creator, Micah Bloomberg. And Stephan James will be joining us shortly. I'm told he's caught in traffic, which we can all relate to. So we're excited to see him when he shows up here. I'm sure, like everybody in the audience, I have a lot of questions for you guys. Some you might not be able to answer, but I guess I want to start with Julia. Just even in the first few minutes of Homecoming, I feel like we see so many sides of Heidi, and we see her in different time periods. And I guess I'd like to know, what was it about this character that kind of drew you to this project, that made you want to play Heidi?
Well, I didn't picture it so bright in here, for one thing. I just thought Eli and Micah wrote this super cool, complicated. I was scared all the time when I was listening to it. I was scared all the time when I read it. I just thought, yeah, let's just go to work and be scared all the time. And so, yeah, I love everything about the 2, maybe 4 Heidis that I've played in the show.
It is such an exercise in tension watching the show, of course we're here in the Directors Guild Theater, and so I have to say, Sam, scientifically speaking, you really directed the hell out of this thing. I have a lot of very precise questions about aspect ratios, but before we get into that,
it's all riveting.
Yes, it's riveting stuff, which we'll get to later. But what was it in the guys' podcast that really made you want to adapt this into a TV show, and what the look of it is so particular. But if you can talk about developing the visual strategy of this show, it really feels very one of a kind.
Yeah, and actually the answer is kind of, I think I have one answer for both. We'll stay economical. But I think when I listened to the podcast, it resonated with me in such a strong way, and I actually binged it in one sitting, and then I binged it again with my wife, and then I binged it a third time. And I think it was in the middle of the third time that I realized what I loved about it was this sort of throwback to these classic thrillers that I loved watching growing up. Hitchcock, Pakula, De Palma, and I just thought, and it was kind of refreshing. Even though it was this throwback, it felt new, because I think nowadays thrillers are kind of action films with some, dramatic little twists in between set pieces, but they're not about people or relationships or the lies that, they tell each other or the lies they tell themselves. And I just thought there was something really, really classic but new about this story. And that led to the visual conversation right away, because, I just drew inspiration from all those guys I just mentioned, De Palma, Pakula, Hitchcock, and that just kind of informed everything from there. And that was the other thing. I didn't want to just be redundant with the podcast. I knew I wanted to make something different with the show, and I think tonally that's the sort of tone, that's where my brain went, is I wanted to kind of imprint that on the show.
Well, and it really is like a thriller about conversations for so much of it, and about these incredibly tense interactions between people, which, as you kind of mentioned, that aspect was there in the podcast. Eli, what was it like kind of working on adapting the podcast into the TV series? Were there aspects that you'd wanted to explore more in the original version and hadn't been able to, or were there things you knew you wanted to kind of shift and focus on in the TV edition of Homecoming?
I think for the when we started adapting it, it was more like it's raised all these questions. For the podcast, we could keep it so narrowly focused that you almost didn't wonder where are they, what this room looked like, what does the facility look like. We didn't even wonder those things ourselves. So once we started adapting it, we started sort of pulling at certain threads that led to other questions and other possibilities. And that was a fun process. But it was also really important to have Sam aboard because from the very beginning, he really wanted to preserve the DNA of the podcast, of those, that character focus, the people talking, having these conversations at the core of the story. And it was very reassuring to know he was going to bring that sort of relentless visual energy to it, not in a way that sort of forced us to water down what made the podcast hopefully distinctive, but in a way that accentuated and brought new life to it.
Yeah, I think Colin describes the vibe of the Homecoming office as hip but masculine.
And a little Florida.
That's right, and Little Florida. But yeah, I mean, even just the visual nature of the office itself is so memorable. I mean, like, there's that great shot in the first episode, Julia, when you're kind of seeing Heidi walk through the whole office all at once, and it feels like such a vivid space. What was it like working on that kind of shot, by the way, that long oneer? It seems like it must have been an interesting, almost kind of more technical challenge.
Well, all the technical challenges were also creative challenges at the same time. I mean, that is the magic of Sam, is that technical doesn't have to suffer for creative performance, and performance never suffers for some rad shot that they want to get. We all suffered together. And Anastasia White, who was our incredible, like, magician-esque. Like, we one day were in a massive soundstage with just some kind of plywood and tape and arrows that say, just go over here and don't go over there. And then, like, 3 days later, we walk into this magical, incredible facility, and it was our playground. We wanted to do everything to be as incredible as what she had built for us to play inside of. It was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, a very remarkable, very scary looking playground. Dermot, I have so many questions for you, but I really kind of almost want to hug your character.
Don't hug him.
He really goes through a lot in the early episodes here.
He brings it on himself. There's no hugging.
But, everyone in the audience, they just saw one of the most gutting breakup scenes in the history of breakup scenes.
There's any number of ways that it could have gone after that moment. I think part of me hopes that there was, some residual, maybe days or weeks, where he clung to the relationship before she really saw him out the door. But
there was maybe a time when there was a wedding years ago. You might have rethought that.
See, I hadn't.
And then it might have informed these characters a little bit differently.
Well, in a large way, without you asking, it did inform these characters. And, in the popular culture, if you want to say, it has enough of a blowback that at least we're all in on the fact that these two people know each other really well. That part's kind of taken care of. So there was a little less acting, which worked great for these particular scenes, because there was also a little less directing. Some of the great auteur directors that Sam is among and mentions earlier are really well known for super weird shots and cool stuff they did with the camera, but they're also well known for leaving the camera still and letting it tell the story with the actors within a really cool frame. So Sam did that in our scenes, and for me, sorry if I may, to compliment to the writers and Sam, that moment where we're supposed to be in Florida, we're shooting it in the marina. It's so cool, because we have palm trees too. And he just on that day tells me to wave at her from across. So the cameras are way over there. I'm getting direction over a walkie-talkie. And I asked you, if you recall, why don't you just show me the way that you would like me to wave? Because there's any number of ways, and I don't really know what the story in this thing is. Right? You'd have to understand that I don't really know what's going on, both as the actor and the character. Right, so that helped. So he just did this from over there, and I thought that was some of the best direction I've gotten in years. Really clear, straightforward. Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome, Dermot.
It's a great moment in the frame.
Well, that seems like a great, a great time to mention.
Wait, everybody clap when he comes in. Everybody clap. Everybody clap.
Please join me.
Or no, shout surprise. Ready? Wait.
Please join me.
Can we dim these horrible lights for a second? Wait, is he coming? Do you think he can hear me talking over a microphone? Can I just tell you this? In 187,000 days of shooting, he was never late.
Never late.
So I know you're pretty.
I'm sorry I'm late, y'all.
Stephan, it's great that you showed up here. We were just talking about you for the last 20 minutes. But Dermot was just kind of talking about what it was like working with Sam Esmail, the director, of course, on some of the more difficult to film sequences of Homecoming. And I was just wondering, your character, he's carrying around so much psychologically, but from the start, he's really radiating what I would describe as kind of a sunniness, or at least there's a lot of lightness there too. What was it like, sort of balancing that with him, especially in these kind of in the earlier scenes of him kind of getting to know Heidi?
Yeah, for me, what was most exciting was the journey that I knew that Walter was going to have to take throughout this 10-part series. He comes in sort of this innocent, naive in a little bit of a sense. He's Exhibit A. He's Exhibit A for this, what's happening here at this place. And for me, I just wanted to be able to, be a voice to some of the veterans, that are sort of going through the process of rehabilitation and getting back to where they need to be. But also, like you said, Sam, he is ambitious. He's an ambitious director, and we were always coming to Sammy and Julia ready to play and ready to give him whatever he needed, and he always gave it back to us.
Yeah, I'd love to know, Sam, filming some of those great dialogue scenes between these two, you just feel like each time you cut to them, you're getting further and further into their souls. What was it like sort of working on these scenes that, as you said earlier, it is very human, it is very much two people, very often sitting in the same office, kind of talking to each other?
Yeah, what's interesting is that the takes were obviously really long, right? And so... honestly, it was just a blessing to have these two, because I'm, watching the scene, and I've got my sides here, and as I'm watching the scene, I write down little things in between lines, this and that, and again, this is like a 10-page scene, and I can go in, and I can go to Julia and say, on this line, this, and this line, this, and I'll give like 20 notes. Same thing with Stephan. And they not only would remember, because I thought maybe I'd have to parse it out, but these two are so good that then not only did they remember all of that, then they blew my mind, did something else that was much better and unexpected and fascinating. Mm-hmm. And again, you guys are going to get to a scene later on that involves eating some food. And so now it's a 10 to 15 page scene eating food. And we're doing multiple takes and multiple camera angles.
A lot of takes.
A lot of takes. And so, yeah.
It wasn't salad or anything like that.
No. And the fact that you guys could take the notes and remember all of them and stay present, stay in the moment. I think that's a testament to their chemistry. They just had this wonderful chemistry from day one, from the audition even. And they just fed each other, and they just fed off each other's energy so well. And yeah, I was lucky. I just got lucky.
We actually had the scene by take 3, but Sam just liked to see us.
Yeah.
And so, we just kept entertaining.
Listen to that voice. Don't you want to just keep hearing that voice? Come on.
just as a mystery, I found Homecoming to be really refreshing in a way. I mean, like, this is a very bingeable show, but I do find that it really rewards watching it as these individual parts that really continue to add up. And I guess I'd like to know, Micah, having written a version of this in podcast form, how difficult was it? You're composing this story where at the start, certainly in the case of Stephan's character, he doesn't know anything about what's going on. I mean, how are you kind of balancing audience frustration with audience interest, I guess would be one question. And it helps maybe if in episode 2 someone already thinks they're not in Florida anymore, but what was that like, kind of balancing the mystery elements of Homecoming?
Yeah, it's tough because you're trying to protect your twists and your story reveals and stuff, but you don't want people to feel frustrated and bored. So it's like you put the characters in situations, and then the way that Eli and I work, we sort of pass the scenes back and forth between us, and it's sort of like trying to get the characters to do the beats and move the story along, but also find something that's interesting or strange or funny or weird for them to talk about or do during the scene. So if it's like drink a glass of water really slowly, that was sort of brought on set, or the character of Schreier and Walter and their interactions and stuff like Titanic Rising and Schreier's City, that's all stuff we just found kicking the scenes back and forth and just trying to find stuff for them to talk about. And then you try to, I think, incorporate those character moments later on into the story and then use them to push the plot. So you think you're getting character, and then later on you realize, oh gosh, like that wasn't just a funny story, that's a crucial thing. Oops, and that's almost a spoiler. Okay, great.
I was going to say, it's funny, you mentioning Titanic Rising. The news about there being a new Titanic ship apparently launching in a few years, I heard that after I saw the Titanic Rising piece of the show, so you guys had your finger on the pulse there. I think it's fair to say.
It's going to be a theme cruise, a Homecoming theme cruise.
Part of the mystery element is that right from the start we're shifting from one timeline to another, from Homecoming to Fat Morgan's is the name of the diner. I guess I'd love to know just kind of technically, Julia, when you're shifting from one Heidi to another Heidi, what was that kind of like? I mean, were you guys kind of block filming all of one portion, or were you kind of switching back and forth? Because those feel like two very different characters to be getting into the mindset of in some ways.
We did 2 blocks, the first 5 episodes and the second 5 episodes, and so we filmed like a film for me, the novice. We did location shooting, and there was only one day in all the months that we were shooting where I was both Heidis. Mm-hmm. And that was, a day that I pushed to the back of my remembrance of this great experience. But yeah, it was really, the mapping of it was complex, I think, by design and the scheduling of it. Peter Cohen, our first AD, who's exceptional and was my first AD on the Pelican Brief. I know. Clap for that. Alan Pakula, the great Alan Pakula. I think for all of our benefits, Sam wanted to create a situation where we weren't just completely flummoxed all the time. There was a syntax to what we were doing and how we were revealing the things that we were trying to express. And so in that regard, it was strangely easy. It was not easy. I don't want to make it sound like it was easy. It was hard, but it was dreamlike.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd love to know what were some of the particular challenges of playing, Heidi at Homecoming as we see her in these first 4 episodes. She's very much kind of openly an authority figure, and then there's great scenes with her on the phone with Colin. You're already seeing a different side there.
Did you call me an authority figure?
Well, just at Homecoming, she kind of presents as someone who's
Colin just yells at me all the time, right? Heidi, 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 Heidi. Yes? She's beating the crap out of me over the phone.
Filming those scenes, what was that like? It was
just super fun.
Because there's an intensity to those scenes you don't often get in kind of cell phone conversations, and especially because it's often playing out in split screens. But that was been interesting, playing off of that when it's just you on screen.
I don't know. Sam gave me so much to do. I think so so many miles to walk to get to my car while I was on the phone, and so many things to hold, and like, how about some earbuds? And I was like, here's some keys. Can you carry this box? And there's 10 flights of stairs. It's going to be a winner. So I think all that distracted from the fact that Bobby was just absolutely just screaming at me the entire time. I don't know. There was a lot going on.
Was he there?
He was always there, but he was hiding.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The first time we actually had a scene face to face, we were both like, "Hi, how are you?" We were so uncomfortable because we just had this phone relationship. Heidi.
So Sam, aspect ratios. Let's talk about.
Finally.
Let's talk about the important stuff here. We're at the Directors Guild, so I have to ask about this. But no, that shift that happens from present to future, or past to present, or however you want to kind of look at it. It's such a great visual, but I have to imagine that might have brought some other interesting problems with it. And what was it like in that kind of shift into the kind of the square format in the present day scene?
Yeah, I mean, look, the decision wasn't really to indicate to the audience the two timelines. I think audiences can figure that out. I don't think that it wasn't about that. It was about, and Todd and I, my cinematographer, whenever we discuss how we're going to shoot a scene, we always start with the character. And we always talk about their point of view. And that kind of informs everything from the lighting to the composition, from whether we move the camera or not. And when we talked about the 2022 future storyline, or the future Heidi, I guess, we wanted to somehow represent how Heidi's sort of in this fog, where she doesn't quite see the whole picture. And there was also this sense in that storyline with Carrasco coming after her, and then, I guess I can't spoil it. Let's just keep it at Carrasco. She's being cornered, and she's sort of boxed in. And she's boxed in not just by Carrasco and these sort of forces that are coming after her, but by the fact that she's sort of haunted with this lack of memory, with this lack of knowing what's going on. No, that's in the first four.
No,
it's in the first four.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
And so that's why we decided to do the aspect ratio. And it to me, it never presented a problem. It's always interesting when you look at something like that and you start thinking about things vertically. It actually kind of opens up a whole new grammar to filmmaking, and not just in terms of the camera, but production design. We thought about verticals in that storyline that really gave it this other feel than from the present day storyline, where you do see the full picture, where it's a little brighter. Here it's a little less saturated. The lighting is a little flatter, and things are just a little bit feeling a little bit more claustrophobic.
Yeah, there's that great scene, the sort of long zoom onto Shea Wiggum in his office, which is he's in cubicles and just feels very kind of like blocked in and very sort of. There's a much more kind of a prison feeling to the sequences than to the stuff in the past.
And that's how it kind of. It's funny how it worked out that way, because we started with Heidi, and then when we started thinking about the Carrasco scenes, it completely fit his character as well and his world.
Mm-hmm. Stephan, you were sort of talking earlier about building the chemistry between Walter and Heidi, and even in these first four episodes, you see that kind of develop. What's your interpretation? What do you think Walter is kind of seeing in Heidi that is kind of bringing out this other side of him that maybe you don't necessarily get with his interaction with the other characters?
I'm so glad you've asked that question.
I think Walter, he's found a friend in Heidi. Honestly, that's the biggest thing that's happened is, they've really been able to get to a personable sort of a relationship. And I think that Heidi, maybe sees something in Walter that is maybe a piece of herself, an innocence, a piece of herself before she may have been, jaded by her world in a way. So I think that there's a part of her that, is conflicted between her job and protecting Walter. And I think that aids into our relationship as well.
Mm-hmm. Julia, what does Heidi see in Walter?
Well, I think this, you said sunny, and it's such a great word to describe him because he's very earnest and authentic and genuine, and he has hope and really believes in something. He stands for something, and I think that is who she is entering into the facility, this new job, and she's sort of the shiny penny, and she has her new water bottle and her pen, and she's going to make a difference, And then that horrible Colin Belfast just has different plans that I can't tell you guys about. Heidi, got different plans. But I think that is what they have in common, is kind of a kindred spirit.
Now, what does Heidi see when she looks at Dermot's character, though?
His name is Anthony. He has a name. He has a name. It's just a name. It's Anthony. It's just one name. It's Anthony.
He also has a philosophy. It's not CrossFit, but...
It's CrossFit based.
Yeah, but it's not CrossFit per se. The writing is fantastic. It seems like I made all that up, but I didn't. I mean, really, maybe it plays into the plot later again. I don't know. The speech about him hoping to hang around by taking pilot lessons seems like a good speech. That they'd have like in a class later on, like an acting class. For real.
I want to make sure that we have time for... Oh, sorry, what's that?
It's intended as a compliment.
Please keep going, Dermot, please.
No, I'm good.
I was going to make sure that we had some time for the questions from the audience, so we'll shift to that. Audience.
Or just run for the exits if you want. It's good.
Let's see, any big mics out there? But yes, please, you in the front row.
You want to wait for a mic?
I think we have a mic that should be traveling in your direction right now.
I cannot handle Dermot Mulroney. You can't. She is projecting.
I just want to say that I am such a TV addict that my license plate says I love TV. And this is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's compelling. I loved everything I saw. And I just checked IMDb and I'm seeing season 2. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a timeline for season 2 in the works?
This is a no spoiler zone.
We're going to work on our license plates before we work on the timeline. I like that. I love TV license plate.
Let's see. Yes, so also in the front row, right up here.
So, if you're not sure exactly what's happening, what was the audition process like?
Well, all the lights were off. And we were just like, where are we going? It was kind of like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It was like a maze. Got out of
A
it.
labyrinth. They had a timer. Yeah.
Recreating the feel of working at Homecoming, it sounds like. Yes, so the fourth row back here.
I'm not as familiar with the podcast. When you then go, 4 years later to 2022, are we not supposed to see kind of time references, or are you trying to show things like the iconic record player, trying to mix with time? Is it really 4 years?
It gets so meta so fast, doesn't
Now I
it?
can't
It's
answer any question.
going to mess with your mind all night. No one's sleeping. I hope you're good with that.
I mean, just to answer that question, I think we were just trying to go for a more timeless thing. We didn't want to go too sci-fi with it. And we also thought 4 years isn't necessarily...
I mean, we talked a lot about, so it's 2018, how different did 2014 look?
Yeah.
You could say things, but it's also
Yeah.
basically familiar.
Well, and then the flying cars come in episode 9.
Sure.
So
Really, season 2.
that's
Yeah,
Two.
no spoilers.
No spoilers, but season 2 is all about flying cars.
Let's see, any other questions? Okay, we have a few down in that row. You can see a few hands raised.
Thank you. Hi, Julia. Hi, Stephan.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you both, why did you want to do this project?
Because it was just so good. The podcast was so good. The story was so good. And then Sam came into it, and I was like, what? And then Stephan, and I was like, And then Dermot, and I was like, this is getting good. What about you, Stephan?
Yeah, for me, I mean, you know, the podcast was the first podcast I ever heard. And I was in love with it, so intrigued by it, that, you know, this world that I had been sort of diving into. And, you know, I knew Sam Esmail's work, Mr. Robot, thought he was incredible. And then, you know, I saw that this little actress, Julia Roberts, was also attached. And yeah, for me, it was sort of a no-brainer. I sent in my tape, you know, to Sam. And then next thing you know, I was like on a plane to LA about to chemistry read with Julia. And I don't know, just crazy. It all happened really, really fast. 14 audition sides later. And you know, we made it happen.
Did you hear all that empathy? Oh.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys feel my pain. It was tough.
That's the actors out there, like, what?
What was you mentioned going there for a chemistry read. What was that process like?
Well, we had some beakers and some little smokers. And thank you, older people. Thank you.
Let's see, I think we have a couple of questions back there.
What about over here?
Or over here, sorry. Where's our microphone? There we are, right over there.
Thank you. Amazing work as always, and I wanted to know which was the most difficult scene that you had to work on. I know they all look very difficult, especially with you carrying all that stuff, Julia. But like just the more in-depth scenes, which was the most difficult one that you got really, it just really tugged at you and you just had a hard time to get through it? Thank you.
Gosh, I probably blocked it out. Sam could answer it better than me. What was my hardest scene for me? Your friend Julia.
I'm thinking. I gotta say, and this is gonna
Don't say there was no hard scene for me.
You just made it look so
No, nobody's gonna believe that.
I don't know.
You know what was hard was in the car.
I kept giving you tons of props.
And you did.
And
God,
telling
you
you we
yeah.
can't cut. And, and like, you did it. And
It was,
add more
but maybe it
props,
was the
and you
simple
still did it.
scenes, like when I pull up. Well, I don't know what episodes they are.
They saw 4.
Okay, but that doesn't mean anything. What episode does Sissy come in?
I mean, I have to say, I know what the answer is. The scene
Okay.
with the food.
Well, yeah. What episode is that?
That's 9. But you said don't get into it.
No, don't get into that.
But that scene...
But I will just tell you, I'm
that
still
was miserable.
haunted to this day.
I'm still full from that.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten since, seriously.
I'm still haunted. I send pictures to Sam from the grocery store. Whenever I see this food, I take pictures of it. I send them to Sam. Thinking of you.
One more take. One more take of the food scene.
We're going to break for lunch.
It was like first thing in the morning, too, at like 6 a.m. Yeah.
Yes, actors. Oh, God. Yeah.
Let's see, a couple of hands being raised right over there.
Hi guys, great job, great show. With kind of the way we're going with streaming and everything like that, and movies are kind of big budgets and stuff like that, what is your favorite part about making something like this versus making a movie? And is it something that you would continue to do instead of doing the big budget blockbuster or even the small independent film? Would you much rather do television series like this?
Are you talking to me? Is he talking to me? I just want to be with Sam. It's true. I just think he's
And
so
Dermot.
smart.
Let's be honest.
It's amazing we got through the filming of this. It's amazing you have a completed show to see on November 2nd, honestly. It's, I just want to be with smart people. I don't care where they are.
And I would add to that, just to maybe touch on what you're asking about. There has become an equalization in terms of material and types of content and stuff. I think so that the experience is more similar than it used to be, I think. Especially in this long format.
I mean,
it used to be back when you'd be lucky to get a movie that was a 4-month-long movie, and now you're lucky to get a TV show that's a 4-month-long TV show.
And honestly, when we first talked about this, we didn't even talk about what it was.
I thought we were making a movie until 2 weeks ago. Sam broke it to me over dinner. I was like, wait, what? It ends every half an hour? And then it starts again?
But the credit sequences are cool.
The credits are great. He was like, we got to get credits in 9 times. Okay.
There's always a lot happening in those credit scenes, too. You have to watch them very closely.
2 minutes is a long time when you're just doing stuff. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. I think I saw another hand being raised right next to the last question.
Hi. Okay, so back to that really long, continuous take in the first episode, which is incredible. Hi, Julia. Right here. How long did it take you to get that? How many takes?
For the oneer?
The oneer.
Well, we had a little pool going on the set. We did. We had to entertain ourselves. And I had 7.
Julia won.
It was, maybe I didn't win. I think we did it in 5, and I had 7.
No, I think you won, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah, you won.
I mean, I feel like a winner.
I remember.
We were very efficient. There was something energetically about all of us together and our impeccable crew that we were all working on the same something.
It was weird. I mean, we had blocked the whole day because we had to shoot it in parts, so we had to block the whole day to shoot the first part. And we got that done like by 10 a.m. And we're like, okay, should we do the second part, which was supposed to be the next day? So we did that, and even less takes, and we went home at lunch.
We did.
And that is just a credit to our amazing crew, our AD.
Our amazing crew and our everything.
Our grips, everything.
And
brilliant.
And this guy, honestly, who knows what he wants.
I think that's a great note to end on. Put your hands together one more time for the cast and crew.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.